All right. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. Uh, good evening. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us for a virtual tour and discussion with Worksong Farm on starting small and staying small. I'm Nikki Kolb and I'm NOFA New Hampshire's operations manager. And NOFA New Hampshire is the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New Hampshire. We promote organic farming, gardening, and land care practices for healthy communities. And this is the first of 6 tours in our 2020 CRAFT program. CRAFT stands for Collaborative Regional Alliances for Farmer Training. And this program focuses on peer-to-peer farmer-led education. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Farm Credit Northeast Ag Enhancement for supporting this initiative. Thank you to them. And I'd also like to introduce Farmer Dan Kilrain from Worksong Farm before we get into the tour. Hi, Dan.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. All right. And thank you, everyone. So let's take a look around Worksong Farm. Give me a second here.
All right. So my name is Dan Kilrain.
And I'm Abby.
And this is Worksong Farm. This is our 10th year in business. We have survived for 10 years now.
We sell certified organic produce, flowers, and we're dabbling in some fruit now.
We have about 3 acres in production on a given year. We sell through our CSA, which this year is a little over 100 members. And we do 1 year-round farmers market now and another farmers market just in the winter.
So welcome to Worksong Farm. We're going to give you a nice little tour of the place. We're located here in Hopkinton, New Hampshire.
We wanted to talk today about staying small, starting small and staying small with a farming enterprise. And it's kind of, it's not because we had the superior wisdom to plan for that at the beginning. We actually had some ideas of where we'd be now after 10 years and the size of the farm, the acreage, the number of CSA members. And kind of by trial and error, we've actually stayed roughly the same size as far as acreage. Yet we've been able to expand our sales and our I guess our yields just by trying to do things better and not necessarily bigger.
So in our first year, 2011 it was, we had gotten a CSA membership of, I think it was what, 35? I believe was the first year, and then it jumped.
I don't even think it was that many. I think it was
Maybe
like 20, 29.
Yeah, so around 30, which is pretty small, but it worked well for us that first year, not necessarily knowing what we could or couldn't do.
And it was really just the 2 of us at that point with some help from some friends and family.
Yeah.
And I also was working part-time elsewhere off the farm.
Yeah, and I was here full time, which was kind of a struggle sometimes. But so it worked out really well, and it happened to just be our close community here. A lot of members just live right up the road, and it's been nice because as we have grown throughout the years, they have stayed. The majority of them have stayed with us, so we've been able to see, their kids grow up and graduate, and they've seen us have kids and start, getting older. It's been really nice having that close-knit community every single year. So the second year, it pretty much doubled. And then it kind of went from there. One year it went up a little too high for our comfort level, and we decided to rein it back down a little bit the following year.
But looking back, I feel like we would have been better off starting out even smaller. In fact, maybe not even doing a CSA at all. Maybe just doing a farmers market, because it's a lot of pressure to have to fill a CSA share for 20 weeks through the summer. When you're, and we weren't new to farming. We had both had a good amount of experience in farming for 6 or 7 years beforehand, but we were new to this farm. We're still learning the land and how we could best use it. Like we discovered, one thing was we just can't grow beets here to save our lives. We can do great carrots, but beets just won't grow. We had this vision at first of trying to grow everything and trying to be like a one-stop shop for our customers. And we've realized over the years that that's not really a smart way to go. It ends up being really frustrating and difficult and not very efficient, and I don't think really necessarily meaningful for our customers. There are certain crops we're not good at growing. There are certain ones we are. We found that we can actually work with other farmers in our area and kind of contract different crops that we don't really like to grow with them. They'll grow them for us, and we just buy them in, and they often do the same with us. If we have an excess or they don't want to do, say, onions, we'll end up selling them a lot of onions in the fall.
Speaking of the onions, we are going to take you on a little tour of the farm to the onion field. You can see how we're doing that. Before we do that, though, we're going to give you a quick shot of our walk-in cooler, which is one thing that we found over the years is something you should really think about investing in early on. In the beginning, we had just like a little cooler and baskets on ice, and we lost a whole lot of product that way. And this nice cooler behind us has been really a very good investment. So you can see in here, Dan and his dad built this, which it's nice to have handy folks in the family. You can see we store everything in these great black crates. We have good humidity. We have a cool bot and an air conditioner to keep it at the right temperature. We have a stack of beer, of course. Gotta have that at the end of the day. And we have currently some of the CSA shares bagged up, ready for delivery. But on a busy day, this place is stacked full of crates all around of various crops.
So yeah, when we talk about starting small, there are certain things you don't want to skimp on, and one of those is storage space. You want to have plenty of room for when you have a big harvest to have a place to put all your crops. And so you can see out here we have big stacks of cold crates that we use to store things in, and that's actually just a fraction of our supply of crates. We keep adding to them over the years. We also added this year a trailer, which is insulated, which we can actually put another cool bot and AC in and use that for additional cooler space. We also take this to the market, and we keep supplies in here when we're not keeping it cold. So having space to keep not just your crops, but tools and equipment and that sort of thing is, you never have enough of that. So here we are at our onion field this year. And you'll see as you look around our farm, we end up, we have a lot of open space, but we have to carve it up into small parcels because we don't have a nice big expanse of flat, dry, rock-free soil to work with. We have areas that are really wet, and we have really rocky spots and really steep spots that we don't want to be tilling up. And so this patch is less than 1/4 of an acre. It's maybe 1/5 of an acre. And we have a number of spots around the farm that are between this size and maybe as much as 1/2 an acre in size, but we just can't do anything bigger than that because of the terrain. And ironically, we're talking about being small. This is one of our biggest crops here is our onions. We started out maybe growing around 10,000 onions a year, and now we're up to around 20,000 a year. But that's because we kept thinking we were gonna add more farmers markets, and every year we tried to do that. We just kept selling more at the one farmers market we were at, the one in our little town of, I don't know, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. And we found it was actually more worthwhile to just stick with one farmer's market and try to do it really well to keep people coming back and give them a reason to keep coming back. And onions were one of those things that we could have not quite year-round, but for a good portion of the year. And it is a year-round market, and we do quite well in the winter because we have things that we can store and have a steady supply of. One thing we started out on a small scale with was trying to go towards no-till farming, or at least minimal tillage, which has become really popular with a lot of small farms these days. And we do a lot with tree leaves that we get in the fall from landscapers who suck them up with their big vacuums and then dump off truckloads of them here at the farm, and they're happy to have a place to do that. And we kind of like them because, for one thing, we know they're probably pretty clean and free of any chemical residues. And so if you look closely, you'll see we put a really thick layer of these leaves in between our beds, and oftentimes in our beds. So you can see we put these down really thick. I'm still not at the soil here because we really want to smother the leaves out. But this is these we kind of use our leaves in 3 different stages. These ones were basically kind of raw and not decomposed at all, and we use these in our paths. And they're, you get a lot of flat leaves that just kind of smother out the weeds and lay a big blanket on the soil. We'll use slightly more broken down leaves if we want to mulch in around our plants, and we can show you some of that in another spot. And then after maybe 2 years of sitting in a pile, the leaves turn into a pretty nice compost, and we'll use that on some of our finer, smaller crops.
Okay, so here we are in our flower patch. You can see I'm starting to get some trellising up, and we've been mulching with assorted leaves. One thing I wanted to mention about starting kind of small and staying small is our flower side of things has kind of grown. And every year I'm trying to push the limits with season extension. But this year happened to be an incident when I had to rein it in a little bit. What with COVID and being home with the kids more because of childcare and schools being shut down, I had to really focus it in and not overstretch myself with the flowers. So even though I had grand plans, it was wise of us to stay small this year on certain side of things so we don't get in over our heads.
This little pile here is a good sample of our stage 2 leaves here. Not quite whole leaves, but not fully broken down. One of the reasons we've been able to stay small acreage-wise is we keep putting up more high tunnels. This one here behind us is the first one we put up, and that was 9 years ago, I think. I think the first year we were farming here. And now we have 4 of these. In fact, we have 2 up here and 2 in our lower field, and those are actually longer than these. And we're not only able to grow a lot of stuff through the winter, which allows us to increase our sales on that end of the year and not try to grow as much during the summer. But even just having half a house of tomatoes in here, we get more good tomatoes than we do in almost a quarter acre of field tomatoes. So this is one way you can maximize your space.
We were able to do it over time as needed. As our CSA grew and as our market base grew, we were able to add another house every so often instead of doing it all at once and not being able to manage them properly.
Now we're still trying to keep up with the demand.
Thanks for touring our small farm with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out to our farm. Maybe next time we can do it in person.
Hope you found some of this information helpful. Thanks.
Even some of the equipment we've invested in is on a very small scale, but it still works just fine.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you again for watching the video with us. I see that we don't have any questions yet in the chat, but oh, somebody just asked something. That's great. Awesome. So I'll start reading these out. But Dan, actually, I had a question first just to sort of like set the stage a little bit after we watched the video. Just wondered, like, what other crops are you growing right now? Maybe you'd like to just share what you're doing now.
Starting out, we actually grew more varieties, I would say, than we do now. Because for some reason we thought we needed, 5 varieties of each crop, and we needed the purple ones and the mini ones and the other funny shaped things in each category. But we've kind of realized that mostly people want the standard things, and the fact that we grow so many different crops is really what gives us diversity rather than trying to grow everything in the seed catalog.
Thank you. So I'm going to just read out what I see here first. So someone has asked, do you do any companion planting? And then a follow-up question is, are all your beds covered in the plastic mulch?
Well, first of all, not all of our beds are covered in plastic. We're trying to get away from using the plastic just because we don't like using plastic that we have to throw away at the end of the year. And you also have to, in order to lay the plastic, you really have to till the ground a lot to get it to the point where that plastic layer works in the soil. So we're trying to do more with natural mulches and covering the ground that way. But we still have enough weeds that it makes sense to use plastic for certain crops. And as far as companion planting, we've dabbled in it. I wouldn't say we don't have a lot of expertise in it. It's more a matter of which crops can we fit close together, but there's no real science as far as which crops enjoy being next to each other.
Thank you. Okay, so then we have, someone's asked, can we hear more about your farming experience before you started Works on Farm and the best way to start out for a beginner?
So actually, Abby and I both had quite a bit of experience before we even met, and then before we started this farm together. I worked on a couple different farms around the Northeast, did some apprenticeships. I worked on the farm in Maine, another one in upstate New York. I also worked at the Shaker Village in Kingsbury, the gardens. Abby had done some gardening in Vermont when she was in school there, and also worked in some greenhouses, worked for a florist, which is why she does a good job with flowers. And she had also started another farm separately with someone else before we met. So we had both been doing it quite a while, probably close to 7 years, I would say, we've been involved in farming. So yeah, as far as starting out, I mean, that's kind of why we did this, was with people, we had in mind people who might be wanting to start out, and that's why we talked about starting small and not trying to be everything for everyone, but focus on the things that work well for you, and rely on other farms and farmers in the community to kind of fill the gaps. I think it kind of works better if there's sort of a fabric of farms, small farms in our community that can cooperate as opposed to each farm trying to do everything themselves.
That's great, thank you. I do see that someone offered us some tech IT help with the feedback, if you want me to read that out to you.
Are you getting an echo on my voice, or is it just me?
I'd hear it a little bit, yeah. So this person has kindly said that the microphone is picking up the sound when you speak, and you can alternate or mute speakers and microphone to eliminate the echo, but I'm not sure, I don't think it's terrible, so I think we can continue. I don't know if you want to troubleshoot it right now, but thank you for sharing that with us. And then we have another question. Someone is wondering what your soil testing program is and if the leaves hurt or help.
Yeah, I don't know if we've been using the leaves long enough to really show up on our soil tests. Basically, we do a soil test every year, but we do it in different spots around the farm. And we've also used various testing labs, which is not what everyone recommends, but we've been trying to find the one that kind of gives us the information we're looking for. So we've been shopping around there. Generally, things are improving, but yeah, I can't really. It's noticeable by feel, I guess. Just sticking your hands in the dirt, the difference that the leaves make, because it's a very, they're high carbon, and they're a pretty long-lasting source of organic matter in the soil.
Thank you. So someone has asked, they wanted to know if you own or lease the land.
We technically lease it from my parents, but they tell us we own it. So basically, it's like we own it.
Scrolling down. All right. Please plug your wonderful farm. Tell us your website and Facebook handle and the name of markets where people can find you. I know you said your location in the farm tour, but please say it again.
Yeah, okay, so Works on Farm, and we're in Hopkinton on Beach Hill Road, right across from Beach Hill Farm, the popular ice cream stand. We do the Kentucky Farmers Market year-round, and then we've also been doing the Concord Downtown Winter Farmers Market, just in the winter months, and that's in Eagle Square. They're both on Saturday mornings, both of those farmers markets. We do a CSA where people can either pick up at the farm or at the farmer's market. And that's the vast majority of where we sell our produce. So worksonfarm.com is the website. I don't know the Facebook handle, or because Abby does a really good job with all that, and I don't look at it. She did tell me to say that you can see a lot of great pictures of the farm and what we're doing, that she updates pretty regularly on Instagram. And again, I don't know how to find that, but I assume you can just put in Works on Farm and you'll find us. I think that's how the internet works these days.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, we can share that out in the chat at the end so people can find you. Thank you. So the next question is, what do you do in terms of crop rotation and cover crops?
Crop rotation has been, our plan has evolved basically throughout the 10 years that we've been farming here. Because as we go, we find just based on the amounts of certain crops we grow, and uh, the timing of them. We've had to rework our crop rotation multiple times. I don't think starting out that you really need to focus that much on crop rotation, other than to make sure you're not planting the same crops or similar crops in the same spot over and over again. But it's something that you can kind of, I think, figure out as you go. And for us, it's been a matter of timing, and we want to get one whole section planted so that we can set up irrigation in that section and fertilize and prep the beds, and not be trying to run around to a bunch of different fields, because as I explained in the video, we have a number of small fields around the farm, and we don't want to have to do a bed here and a bed there just so we can stick to our location. And cover cropping, it's another timing issue, because we're really farming year round. The windows to get cover crops in are often pretty narrow, and so we do a lot of buckwheat in the summer when we can squeeze it in, and I've been finding more and more that I prefer the winter kill cover crops like oats and peas as opposed to winter rye and hairy vetch, because we want to be able to get into that ground early in the spring, and we don't really have the equipment to knock those big living cover crops down and plant into them right away. But again, it's my philosophy is just diversity, and try to keep something growing in the ground. And if you have an empty space in a period of time, throw any seed you have in there. We're even using old bean seeds this year as a cover crop.
Thank you. I saw there was a follow-up to a question that I asked earlier that I didn't see, so I just wanted to ask if you do recommend leasing over owning land, or vice versa, based on your experience?
Well, we were really interested in not leasing land because we wanted to find a farm and be able to stay there for a long period of time. And if you're leasing it, I think there's often a lot of uncertainty there, depending on who you're leasing it from. So it was important to us to have more ownership of the land. We got lucky, we found a piece that's in a conservation easement. So it was affordable because it can never be developed for houses. But like we do a CSA, and we do mostly the farmers market in our town, and so the vast majority of our customers are basically our neighbors. A lot of them really are neighbors, and if they're not our neighbors, they're all within 5 to 10 miles of the farm, I would say. And so it's important for us to be part of the community and have that kind of long-term commitment, that leasing land would be, I think, it would just add a lot of uncertainty there and make it harder to ensure that we're here for a little bit.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay. Someone has asked, can you talk more about the non-tillage system that you use, any machinery, etc.?
All right. So I read Andrew Mefford's book this past winter. I think it's the no-till organic farming revolution, something along those lines. And we were kind of already looking to minimize our tillage and starting down that path. But reading that book gave me a lot of better ideas on how to pursue that. Really, the one tool I have that helps me there is this. It's called a scarifier, and it's basically it's a tool on the back of my tractor, and it has 4 shanks about 12 or 14 inches long, and it allows me to just kind of rip through a bed, and it just kind of rips deep channels, but without really turning the ground over, mixing it up. So that's what I've been using, but partly because that's what I had to use. There are certainly some better tools, more made for no-till, that I would love to have, but they're expensive, and I like to try to make do with what I have before I invest in a new piece of equipment. It ends up being a good amount of handwork. It's just because a lot of what we're doing is spreading that leaf mulch, and I wish I had a good tool to just blast it over the field, but right now it's a bunch of shorts and wheelbarrows and that sort of thing. And that really, the idea is that takes care of a lot of your cultivation. So you put the work in up front, and hopefully it keeps the weeds down and also keeps the soil healthy so your crops do well.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. So this is about business. Someone asked, can you tell us more about how to start a farm on the business side of things, like startup costs, the transition, finding customers, etc.?
Yeah. I would say a lot of young farmers maybe spend too much time on the marketing end of things, and maybe this is a bit of a back and forth, because I know there's been a big push to get farmers to learn more about the business end and the marketing end of things, but I just see a lot of farms start out and really push the marketing and push their message and brand themselves without really having a lot of product to sell. And at least where we are here in central New Hampshire, I feel like the demand for good local produce, and especially organic produce, is the demand's higher than the supply. So That may not be the case in other areas, but that was one of the reasons we decided to try to farm here. We both grew up near here, but we also realized there was more sorry, I'm blanking on the word, but there's more opportunity for a farm here than maybe in Vermont, where there are already a lot of little farms, but not quite as many people to buy the food. So I think from our point of view, it's been, the challenge has been growing enough and growing high quality food to keep up with the demand. And I think if you can do that, you know, at least the marketing end of things takes care of itself. We really don't even advertise our CSA anymore, but it pretty much fills up every year just from word of mouth and people coming back and people telling their neighbors. That's right. As far as you know, like on the economic side, I guess it's a good thing to set a budget and try to stick with that. And it's good to have a good chunk of money to invest in all those capital things you need, all the equipment and infrastructure and that at the beginning. And it may even be worth taking out a loan if you need to do that, because there are a lot of you know, good loan programs for farmers that are really low interest and stuff. But we've tried to often make do with what we have and build things ourselves and do it all ourselves. And I think that's kind of held us back in a lot of ways. And we might have been better off if we had just put the investment in and say, hired a mechanic to fix the tractor, or hired a carpenter to build a tool shed, or that sort of thing. And that's part of also what I mean by staying small, is not trying to take on more than you can reasonably do. Because no matter how good your plan is, there are always unforeseen issues that come up, and you know, there's always plenty of work to do just growing food. And I think it's probably best starting out not to complicate that, but also trying to be a carpenter and you know, a logger and all those other things that people make professions out of.
That makes sense. Thank you. Let's see here. All right. So we have someone from Canterbury Shaker Village who says hi.
Hi.
And he says, I've been having some pest issues in the hoop houses here, particularly cucumber beetles. And he saw some insect netting on your vents and roll-up sides. How's it been working for you? Any tips?
Yeah, we have a terrible problem with cucumber beetles. Cucumber beetles and flea beetles might be our biggest pests. And we seem to have a lot of both every year. And one year we basically lost all of our cucumbers in the high tone because the cucumber beetles ate them and gave them all bacterial wilt, which is a disease that makes them just collapse really quickly. So we started covering our whatever high tunnel we're using for our cucumbers. We completely cover all the openings with insect netting, and it seems to be the only way we can get a good cucumber crop now. Unfortunately, that means you have to get all the greenhouse variety cucumbers that are what they call perf in the carpet and are able to set fruit without pollination. Unless, I guess you could buy, say, bumblebees or something and introduce them to your tunnel for pollination, but we haven't tried that yet. But yeah, this year it's a great example. We got the netting on our early cucumber house, and they're doing great. In our later house, we ran out of time, didn't get the netting on, and now our late house is going down really fast, even though our early cucumbers are still looking pretty good. So I personally hate using pesticides, even the ones that we're allowed to use for organic growing. It's just not something I enjoy doing, and I find that they're not very effective anyways, especially when you have a cucumber beetle problem like we have. I don't think they're going to get sprayed often enough to really take care of that problem. So we try to use things like insect netting for exclusion and other practices to minimize the pests. But I would recommend that. You have to be very diligent about keeping the door closed to your tunnel, sealing every little hole. So it's a bit of a pain, but if you want cucumbers, at least here, that's what you need to do.
Thank you. And I just missed just one detail that you said. I know obviously we're talking about the cucumber beetles, but you said there was like another type of beetle that you struggled with, and I couldn't hear what it was.
Flea beetles on our brassica crops.
Mm.
We just have a lot here. And we also grow a lot of brassica crops. So it's hard to take a year off from growing brassica crops because there's so many good ones out there. Between kale and salad greens and cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and radishes. There's just so many that our customers want. And unfortunately, you can't just take a year off of all of those in order to try to get the population of flea beetles down.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
So another question is, where do you order your harvesting / storage crates that we saw?
I've gotten them from numerous places. I've bought some from Fedco, which is a grower supply place up in Maine, and I've gotten them from another farm that has a big greenhouse operation nearby, and I've also we got them shipped up from New Jersey. There's a huge place that does tulips and other bulbs. They wholesale them, so they have a lot of crates. They call those bulb crates because that's where they come from, these flower bulbs. So it is they can be tricky to source, and oftentimes the shipping costs more than the actual crate itself. So it's best to, if you are going to get them in big quantities. You know, they can only fit 50 or so on a pallet. But I highly recommend, if you want to get them, ask a bunch of other farmers if they need any too, and then because the more you get at once, the cheaper it makes the shipping. So ask around and see if you can do one big bulk order and then divvy them up.
Nice, thank you. And I'm just going to take an opportunity to plug NOFA New Hampshire there, because we have a bulk order program. I'm not sure actually if we have crates in that program or not, so I'll check in with our coordinator, but we do have that program, and that runs every winter around from January through February. So
Yep.
Look out for that later in the year. So let's see what's next here. Okay, someone asked, do you have any small livestock, chickens, pigs, goats, sheep, anything else?
We've had chickens, laying hens a couple times now, and we've gotten rid of them both times. We just have our hands full with the vegetables and fruit and flowers and herbs that we need. And I would love to incorporate more livestock, but it just seems to eat more of our time than we can manage, and they're not very profitable because we don't have a lot of experience with them. But that would be a great kind of partnership, I think, for any farm is, you know, we can't all specialize in everything. And I would love to have someone incorporate livestock on their farm, just because I think it makes for a more healthy farm.
Thank you. So I see we have 5 minutes left, and we have one more question currently, which works out well. So someone has asked, who are your mentors? Older farmers, the internet, YouTube, cooperative extension, USDA, your gut?
All of the above. When I first got into farming, I read a lot of books, and worked on various farms, and also went to a lot of conferences and workshops. There's a lot of good workshops throughout the year that Extension puts on, or NOFA puts on, or small and beginner farmers New Hampshire puts on. So I would recommend, you know, going to those events. One of the best over the years for me has been the New England Fruit and Vegetable Growers Conference, and they hold that every other year on the odd numbered years. So it won't be this year, it'll be next year, but it's pretty much always held in Manchester in December. The winter time is a great time for farmers to have conferences. So I recommend that, and especially conferences where you can hear other farmers talk, and then meet them in person and pick their brains. Those are some of the best places I've made connections and gotten good tips and that sort of thing.
Great, thank you. Stay tuned for more info on NOFA's winter conference. Okay, I just want to put up a slide, and I see we have one more question, so I'm going to do that while I ask this question out to you. We only have a few minutes left. You mentioned that you're dabbling in fruit. What varieties are you currently growing or would you recommend growing?
Well, we don't have a lot of fruit. Basically, we've been doing strawberries for a handful of years. And we do what's called the annual bed system with strawberries, where we plant strawberry plugs instead of the bare root crowns that are traditionally planted. And this is a whole other topic. So if you're interested, you can shoot me an email and I can direct you to other information on that. But we just got 50 blueberry bushes and put those in this spring. And I would love to have a bunch of other perennial fruit bushes and trees and that sort of thing, but we haven't really put in a lot of perennial stuff yet. So the strawberries is really always done for fruit.
Thank you. And so is that something that people can find your email on your website?
Yes, you could find definitely on the website worksongfarm.com. But our email's pretty simple. It's just worksongfarm@gmail.com.
Thank you. Well, I know we're almost at 8 o'clock, so I just want to thank everyone for staying with us tonight for this discussion with Dan and Works on Farm and for the farm tour. And Dan, I want to thank you and Abby again for showing us around the farm and answering all of our questions. Thank you.
Sure thing. And if anyone thinks of other questions or wants to talk in person, go on our website. You'll find our email, our phone number. I know it's hard in these short things to really get a lot of information out there, but feel free to contact me personally.
Thank you. And so for everyone that's with us still, if you like this tour, you can support NOFA New Hampshire by becoming a member, making a donation. And you can see the slide that I just put up with more information about the other craft of farming tours that are coming up later this year. So please mark your calendars for that, and also for our next upcoming tour, which is going to be at Hippie's Farm on August 12th at 7 p.m. That's going to be another virtual tour. And I want to just thank everyone again for spending time with us tonight. Thank you and good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.